Hi everybody and welcome back, and today we will be talking about Scrum meetings. These are the things that we will be learning in our video, such as technical debt, definition of done, sprint planning meeting, daily Scrum meeting, sprint review meeting, sprint retrospective meeting, backlog refinement meeting, and bug triage meeting. Content for this session will come from the Scrum reference card, and this is what his site looks like. Technical debt, do the right thing. So what is technical debt? Technical debt is a concept of programming that reflects the extra development work that arises when code that is easy to implement in the short run is used instead of applying the best overall solution. So what this means is that when you're building code, that you took the easy way out instead of doing the right thing. Scrum Masters are responsible for promoting, increasing the rigor and the definition of done. Items that are called done should stay done. So what I want to talk about later on is about coming up with your definition of done so that when you're actually done, you are actually indeed done. So some of the things you can do to help you stay done is that to have automated regression testing. This prevents vampire stories that leap up out of the grave. Also make sure that your design and architecture and infrastructure must emerge over time. They are subject to continuous reconsideration and refinement instead of being finalized at the beginning when we know nothing. So the Scrum Master can inspire the team to learn engineering practices to prevent technical debt, such as continuous integration, which is continuous automated testing. This means that every time you check in your code, it will run a suite of automated tests. Test-driven development, continuous merciless refactoring, frequent check-ins, and the list can go on and on. So what I want to talk about now is this graph. So what this graph is showing is that when you hurry up and get something done, this is where you are. You have week done. And when you do something the right way, it will be done, and it actually will be done. So the difference between a week done and getting something actually finished, which means you don't have to go back and fix things, is called a technical debt. And we don't want to be here. We want to make sure that we do things the right way the first time. And I'll talk more about that later. Definition of done, having closure with your sprints. So what is the definition of done? That can vary by organization. A very simple definition of done can be encapsulated as follows: code complete, test complete, approved by the product owner. An approved definition of done would contain the following details: code complete, unit tests written and executed, integration tested, performance tested, documented but just enough, code checked in, and approved by the product owner. When it comes to agile methodologies, the keep it simple stupid principle should be followed. Try to keep it simple, repeatable, and tailored to your organization. Preparing a single definition of done that suits every situation is not possible. Each team should collaborate and come up with the definition that suits its unique environment. So here's a sample definition of done, and this is called a thinking grid, and this comes from the Scrum Alliance. So I'm not going to go through everything below, but what you can see is that it talks about user story clarity, make sure that you find your tasks, you build your setup changes, get your product owner approval, and so forth. And it goes through about making sure your environment is ready, that certain tests are done, that your code is complete, unit tests are done, code is checked in, merging and tagging, automated code review, peer review, code coverage, burn down chart is ready, and it goes down through functional testing, regression testing, and performance testing and whatnot. So this is just one sample of a definition of done, but you really need to take a look at your own situation and come up with your own definition of done. Sprint planning meeting. Let's plan what we are going to do in the next sprint. So what is a sprint planning meeting? At the beginning of each sprint, the product owner and team hold a sprint planning meeting to negotiate which product backlog items they will attempt to convert to a working product during the sprint. The product owner is responsible for declaring which items are the most important to the business. The team is responsible for selecting the amount of work they feel they can implement without accruing technical debt. So the team pulls work from the product backlog to the sprint backlog. So for example, here is your product backlog, and you can see you got small items, medium items, small items, large items, extra large items, and you'll pull them into the sprint backlog. And then from there, you will then create tasks for these work items that you pulled in from the backlog. Daily Scrum meeting, a quick daily review of how the sprint is going. So what is a daily Scrum meeting? The daily Scrum is intended to disrupt old habits of working separately. Every day at the same time and place, the Scrum development team members spend a total of 15 minutes reporting to each other. Each team member summarizes the following: what was done the previous day, what will be done today, and what impediments are being encountered by the team. The team might find it useful to maintain a current sprint task list, a sprint burn-down chart, and an impediment list. It is almost always useful for the product owner to attend the daily Scrum. But when any attendee also happens to be the team's boss, then the invisible gun effect hampers self-organization and emergent leadership. Standing up the daily Scrum will keep it short. Topics that require additional attention may be discussed by whomever is interested after every team member has reported. Sprint review meeting. Let's show them what we did. So what is a sprint review meeting? After sprint execution, the team holds a sprint review meeting to demonstrate a working product increment to the product owner and everyone else who is interested. The meeting should feature a live demonstration and not a report. After the demonstration, the product owner reviews the commitments made at the sprint planning meeting and declares which items are now considered done. The Scrum Master helps the product owner and stakeholders convert their feedback to new product backlog items for prioritization by the product owner. Sprint retrospective meeting. How did the sprint execute? What is a sprint retrospective meeting? Each sprint ends with a retrospective. At this meeting, the team reflects on its own process. They inspect their behavior and take action to adapt it to future sprints. Dedicated Scrum Masters will find alternatives to the stale, fearful meetings that everyone has come to expect. An in-depth retrospective requires an environment of psychological safety not found in most organizations. Without safety, the retrospective discussion will either avoid the uncomfortable issues or deteriorate into blaming and hostility. And we don't want that. We just want people to talk about what went well, what didn't go well, and whatever they want to do for next time. Impediments to the sprint retrospective meeting. If your boss is there, the team may not be able to engage in full transparency. Don't jump to conclusions and propose actions too quickly. Set the stage, gather data, generate insights, decide what to do, and then close the retrospective. Geographic distribution. Geographically dispersed teams usually do not collaborate as well as those in team rooms. Retrospectives often expose organizational impediments. Once a team has resolved the impediments within its immediate influence, the Scrum Master should work to expand that influence, chipping away at the organizational impediments. In all cases, the goals are to gain a common understanding of multiple perspectives and to develop actions that will take the team to the next level. Backlog Refinement Meeting. Let's make the backlog current. What is a backlog refinement meeting? Most product backlog items initially need refinement because they are too large and poorly understood. Teams have found it useful to take a little time out of each sprint execution, every sprint, to help prepare the product backlog for the next sprint planning meeting. The team considers the effort they would expend to complete items in the product backlog and provides other technical information to help the product owner prioritize them. Large, vague items are split and clarified, concerning both business and technical concerns. Sometimes a subset of the team, in conjunction with the product owner and other stakeholders, will compose and split product backlog items before involving the entire team in estimation. Bug triage meeting. Let's review what needs to be fixed. What is a bug triage meeting? Similar to a sprint planning meeting, but this is just for bugs. Typically, this will happen from the middle toward the end of your project. Bugs will be prioritized by functional severity and by business priority. Developers will talk with QA to get a better understanding of the bugs and will provide estimates. Bugs may even be eliminated due to duplicates or the inability to reproduce them. Putting it all together. Below you will see the order of meetings surrounding your sprints. Sprint planning meetings happen before the sprint. Daily Scrum meetings happen every day during the sprint. Sprint review, sprint retrospective meetings, backlog refinement meetings happen after the sprint. Bug triage meetings can happen when needed, typically toward the end of your project when you have a lot of bugs. However, this can be mitigated by having your correct definition done for your sprints. So I want to talk a little bit about the diagram to my right. So we have our sprint planning meeting first before we start the sprint. During the sprint, we have our daily Scrum, which happens every day. At the end of the sprint, we have a sprint review meeting, which is kind of like you're basically telling your product owner what you built and getting their feedback and making sure that the work items are actually done. Then you have a sprint retrospective meeting to talk about what went well, what needs to be improved, and whatever else the team wants to talk about to make the sprint better for next time. Now, this backlog refinement meeting, you should have that before the sprint planning meeting so that you know which order of items in backlog that you need to go through so that you can grab the ones that you want for your next sprint planning meeting. Well, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.